Hello and welcome. I'm April Lamont, your host and the CEO of Alisant. I am joined today by Bob Cardoza, who is the Chief Operating Officer of FirstService Residential. Bob, it's a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, April. I appreciate the invitation.
Always, always. I thought we would start today by talking about the formal launch of FirstService Development Advisors about a year ago. Can you tell us a little bit about what that opportunity you recognize to be and how you've led that group?
So it goes back all the way back to 2023. We spent about a year kind of standing it up and creating it, and then we launched it in October of 2024. So First Service Development Advisors, the recognized value, that's pretty straightforward. It's, the value of having meaningful and trusting relationships with large landholders who are building large scale communities, who ultimately need a management partner to manage those communities. And doing those things well often leads to providing this great form of intelligent organic growth into the company. So the value that it has to us is really straightforward, and everybody gets that. For me personally, so why did the company ask me to lead this for us? And it just goes back to my career, because for me personally, I've known the value of developer consulting services throughout my career, because I started in California back in 1988, actually. And California operations always had a consulting company as part of its operating model. Always. So the moment I got there, it was there. And as my career grew, I actually gravitated away from property management and into the consulting world. That's why I've spent most of my years, almost 30 of being a member of the Urban Land Institute, as an example. And so that environment cultivated relationships with the likes of the Rich Mishvejo Company, the Irvine Company. You can talk about places like Lewis Homes or 5 Point Communities. Those are just a couple of examples of relationships that were built over the years that recognized the value of those partnerships and what they brought to our managing company. And so if you look at a market like California, it's not only one of the largest singular markets in FirstService Residential because of those relationships, it's also full of big master plan communities that are great to manage. So the desire of the company was to replicate the model throughout the organization where it made the most sense, right? Because that's what we wanted to focus on. So we went about trying to do that.
And so people like Katie Ward and Tanny Mendenhall in Texas kind of took that mantle along with you?
Was very fortunate. So the first thing we did is, the first thing that I did is ask Katie Ward to be my partner in this. I've had a long relationship with Katie Ward. Not only is she one of the best leaders that I've ever been around, but she's also one of the best human beings and one of my best friends, right? I've spent a lot of time with Katie Ward. And I asked her if she would do that with me. Katie and I have had a good relationship of where I've never had an idea or a thought that when I didn't put it by Katie, that it wasn't exponentially better after that. And I really wanted her to be a part of this because she had been in California with me. She kind of knew what we were trying to accomplish. She had gone out and become the president of all of Texas. She was doing some of her own consulting out there, taking what she had seen and learned in California and taking out there. So together, we created a council. So we brought people from all over FirstService Residential, about 20 people. So about 20 out of 20,000 who were doing some kind of consulting. I just didn't know what. And so we decided we're going to bring these people together. And that's what we did. So we brought a lot of talented people together. Tanya, it was in Texas, and she was part of that. And Katie Ward. There's other people. There's a woman named Kelly Sombrano who I've worked with for a number of years who's exceptional at this. So we brought those people together, and we just sat in a conference room in Texas over several days in that first meeting and started to design and configure what a best-in-class consulting company geared towards land developers would look like. And so the idea, April, was the company was kind of doing it. I could gather 20 people. We were fragmented and we were doing it individually, but we were, and there were different levels of it and different scales of it. But the idea was, what if we were able to not be isolated to where somebody was sitting, but to apply just what their knowledge was anywhere? So it
Yeah.
it was more about what you knew than where you sat. And how could we wrap a company around that? And that's what we went out to do. And then the other thing I did, which you know very well, is I've been fortunate. I have spent a lot of my career, looking up to and being mentored, especially in the leadership world, by Paul Johnson from Rancho Viejo. And right around this time, he was retiring. And he'll tell you the story that I went to his retirement party. And I said, hey, when you're done climbing that next mountain of yours, I have a thought, and I did. And about 6 months after his retirement, I talked him into helping me. And he agreed to give me a year. He's on year 3 with me now, but he agreed to give me a year. And I thought, what better person to help me design something than someone who is just at the pinnacle of doing exactly that building great communities. And so that was a huge, huge benefit as well by having him actively involved in the creation and the launch of the company.
So it sounds like you took sort of disparate expertise, brought it together as a center of excellence across the company, created a brand and identity around it. And was that really the launch last October, almost a year ago?
It was important to everybody that this be an independent corporation. So it is an independent corporation. It
Mm.
operates independent for FirstService Residential. The mantra I had to people was, this business we're creating has nothing to do with property management, but everything to do with the success of our property management company. There was a difference. People
Mhm.
sometimes get a little bit confused and they try to wrap management contracts into a consulting world. And I had known from my experience that you just had to look at it in a silo. Like, you just had to focus on building the best consulting company and then do that well, and it will manifest itself into the things that you want. But if
Yeah.
you focus on the end goal, then you're missing out on how you effectively get there. And so we created an independent organization, and, we took some pieces that were fragmented and tried to unify them. And in the end, what we ended up creating was this independent organization that we staffed up, and that we defined a set of services, and that we branded and we marketed, and we had a go-to-market strategy for that organization. And we took it there. And some of the things that I think were paramount to our success is, one is a parent company in FirstService Residential that was like, what do you need, Bob? Tell us what success looks like, and we'll give you what you need to go get there. And that was huge. To have people that just support you and saying, hey, okay, I get it. Let's go and do those things. And then the other thing was that we had proof of concept. The concept had worked fabulously well in California, and it was working across other pieces. But what I would say the difference here is, what I experienced a lot were that people were doing what I call like pre-management readiness. Our company,
Mm.
we're involved with landowners 2 to 3 years before they're ever going to sell the land. I mean, they're just in the infancy stages of kind of envisioning what their customers are going to do and experience in their communities. So they're years away from seeing them come to life. And our job is to understand that vision and help them create a model to deliver that vision in perpetuity, forever, right? What does it look like to deliver this vision forever? And that's not hyperbole. That's really what they're asking, is how can we do that? And so that's what our organization does. Yeah. That April, that we launched at ULI fall meeting
Yeah.
in October of 24. And even my own optimism, because I am an optimistic guy, I just believe in visualizing what your success looks like and going and getting that. It has gone above what I had thought we could do within a year's time. We've done really, really well.
That's great news. And now you've got Gene Leon on board. He's leading that initiative, that company.
Yeah, this gentleman, G. Leon, Katie Ward was my partner. We went through lots of resumes and interviews, and we were looking for a bit of a unicorn. We had interviewed lots of people who were former, land developers or home build. We interviewed lots of talented, experienced people. But she and I kind of had this alignment of now we're looking for something that's a bit nuanced and a bit unique. And to be honest, we were 6 months into interviewing, and I was starting to think, okay, we're having a rough time of this. We might have to adjust. And we meet this gentleman named Gene Leon. And during the interview process, I remember Katie texting me during the process saying, is it me or do I think we found our person? And I'm like, no, I think we found our person. And Gene has proven to be that and more. He is an excellent addition to our organization and our culture. And he is really knowledgeable about the development space and the hospitality space. And he's a real seasoned pro
Yep.
when it comes to this kind of endeavor, especially on the business development side of things. And so he's just been wonderful.
That's great. It's great to hear a little bit more about where it started and where it's gone from here. And I'm sure you're going to continue to see great success from that initiative. It's a missing piece of the puzzle. I've got this land. What's the best use? And how do I get it from here to there? And not just today, but as you said, in perpetuity, so that there is that self-sustaining longevity to the project, to the community as it exists well into the future.
Yeah, and April, you know as well as anyone that some of the folks who own all the land and who will be, developing the land and selling it to home builders over the next several housing cycles, you and I both know that they're not always named Lennar and they're not always Abrahamian, and sometimes they're names you've never heard of before. They're families
Yeah.
who have 30,000 acres in New Mexico or wherever it
Yeah.
is, and they're building tremendous communities of size and scale and need some help and
Yeah.
some guidance. And so that was, while I recognize that because you and I have been in the same circles kind of for a long time in that ULI, and you recognize that, that was something that our organization had to come to kind of like, oh, I understand that now.
Yeah.
It isn't just as easy as going to the people that we've heard about all these years. Like that's not necessarily who owns all
Yeah.
the land.
Yeah. Great
And the
point.
nice thing to April is that, so as you can imagine, we go out and we find a tremendous amount of data and we gather it and we figure out our strategies. And so I can sit here today and I know where the next 2 million lots are being approved and developed, and I know where they're at, and I
Yeah.
have all that information today. But the nice thing is that FirstService Residential is already operating in like 75% of the places where all this is taking place. That that is such a great connection for
Yeah.
us. And the places that we're not in today, that gives me a crystal ball to be able to frame things up, to take to my leadership to say, we should go here and here and here, because this is
Right.
what's going to be happening over the next decade. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, you've buffed your crystal ball.
Yeah.
That's really a smart strategy. And which is a great transition. I know this isn't a straight line from there to here, but you find yourself in a new role now, in the last 120 days as really the first chief operating officer of First Service Residential. Let's talk a little bit about that transition for you, what the role is like, what you
Yeah.
inherited or didn't.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's been really interesting, and I will tell you, this kind of goes back to the kind of the influence that my wife has on me as not just a human being, but also that she has on me as a leader, and kind of the things that mean the most to me, because I really loved my prior role. I was the president of the Western United States, and I worked with those people for almost 15 years, and I built these great relationships with this team that I was able to find and put together, and I really love those people. I feel really connected, and that was hard to leave that. And in the beginning, I wasn't sure that I wanted to. I didn't just jump at the opportunity, to be honest with you. And it was people, it was my wife, and it was David Diestel, our CEO. And it was my wife telling me, hey, you wake up every day and you know exactly what you're going to do, and you know exactly what's going to happen, and you don't have a lot of surprises anymore because you've done it for a long time. And
Fair.
she's, I mean, I think it's time for you to go be surprised a little bit. I think it's time for you to go do something that you don't wake up every day and know exactly what's going on. And that was eye opening for me. And David Diestel, who I've known for 20 years, being the organization, our CEO for the last like, 5, he had come to me and he had said, hey, I think you do really well in this role. Never had a COO before. You and I could be great partners, and you and I can design something that you feel is valuable to you in this organization. And that really was my tipping point when
Yeah.
he kind of said, hey, this is not the job description. It's you and I deciding what's the best job description and partnering on that. And that was really, I was very much appreciated that with David, and the partnership that we have. So yeah, it's been about 5.5 months that I took the role on. Yeah.
So, so Bob, you had tremendous success in the West. We had the pleasure of seeing some of that success here at Alisonde, being partners in the earliest days of our company. What were some of those philosophies or approaches that you found created the success for the organization, for yourself in the West, that you're bringing with you now into this national role?
Yeah. And it was interesting, April, because everything was kind of brand new. And so I spent a lot of time talking to Paul Johnson about it. I spent a lot of time, I had my own executive coach, and spent a lot of time talking to people and that I valued their opinions of things. And so some of the things that I felt were important was, uh, because I grew up basically in one company. I mean, I've been with FirstService Residential for 19 years, and only because they bought the company I worked for the previous 19 years in California. So I've
Mhm.
really, and they were similar companies, and so I've kind of worked for the same place. And so you're talking to an accounts receivable rep at heart, and I've had many roles in my career, and so one of the philosophies that I bring to it is I I feel like I want to create a nice bridge between the things that our company needs to do to stay relevant and to stay prosperous in the future. And that's unique for us at our size and scale, but not lose sight that it's about our associates and the culture that we have, and that it's important to wrap ourselves around those people in a effective and empathetic way so that they can see what's important about the ride we're taking, and that they can see how it's going to impact them and what opportunities it might provide to them.
Yeah.
I definitely have a philosophy that I need to give back to others in the same way that others throughout my career gave to me. I wouldn't be here, but there's a whole list of people who invested in me, and I want to be that person to other folks. And then also, just I am a believer that, you know, the number one I think the number one obligation of a very thoughtful organization and a meaningful organization is prosperity. I think that if you have an eye towards prosperity, and if you are a company that believes of promoting from within and giving opportunities to people,
Yeah.
you cannot do that unless you're a prosperous organization that's kind of thriving year after year.
Yeah.
I think anybody can be successful for a quarter or a year or a couple of years, but can you perpetuate something?
Mhm.
Because what I want people to have is a career, not just a job. I want them to have some enjoyment to this. I know work is work sometimes, but I want them to have enjoyment to what they're doing. And I want them to see that, oh, I'm this today, but I can be that tomorrow.
Right.
And so the philosophies I have is just, I want to be associate facing, customer facing, and then I have obligations as a corporate officer, right? And so I've got these three things, but I look at it in those ways. It is my associates and my customers, right? And when you get those things right, then I'm serving the
And the
corporation.
last will count, it'll work itself out as a result. Um, One of the things I've heard said about you, Bob, is that you walk in the shoes of others, whether it's your associates or your team leaders or management layers, that the fact that you've had um, a long and thriving career has given you opportunities to walk in the shoes of many people and many of those associates today. How do you think that impacts, sort of their receptiveness to this new role and you too and you, Bob, in this new role?
That's interesting. So I have I have thought about this a bit. I think that the role that I've played that has the most influence on my role today was that of a market president. So being the president of California for a long time, I reach back to that
Mhm.
in this role because I do feel like in order to to bridge a really nice relationship with our markets, that you need to have a level of empathy as to what you're asking them to do and what the impact will be on them. And I think most empathy that I have gained over the years is having been a market president, right? And had several roles. And when I speak to people, I can say, no, I know. I've been you. I know exactly what you're feeling. And I promise you, let's talk this through a little bit. And
Yeah,
I do think more often than not, it brings some credibility to
sure.
being in the role. I think it helps me build relationships with leaders throughout the organization because I can connect with them on the trials and tribulations that they're having, maybe the trepidations that they're having, or maybe even the excitement that they have. I can definitely relate to that, and I think that there are probably moments when not everyone enjoys that, when they try to tell me that something can't be done or this would be hard or my market's different or you don't understand, that's difficult to get by me because I do understand the market's not that different. And let's talk, I've done it before. So
Right.
sometimes I think that some people are like, geez, he's, yeah.
No hiding. But also to their credit, I think one of the first things you shared with me you did in this new role is essentially travel to nearly every, if not every market where you have teams and associates present.
I did. That was a partnership that, a commitment I made early on. Um, and this idea that I would just go out personally. I'm not a huge believer on all this virtual stuff. I like to go to the markets and meet people and sit down with people and kind of lock arms and talk with people. And so I did go. I spent about 4.5 months traveling to most of our markets and meeting with lots of people and really sitting down with them and, asking questions and listening. What would you do if you were me? What would you do if you were the new person, if you were the person in this new role?
Yeah.
Knowing what you know today, what would you do? I would ask people things like, have you ever been sitting in your office and go, man, if I was in charge of FirstService Residential for a day, this is exactly what I would do. And I said, well, now's your time. Tell me. Like it's a safe place. Tell me what's on your mind.
Yeah.
And we would talk about the changes in the organization and we would talk about, some of the things that they were concerned about or they were excited about. The things I would ask people is like, if I could do one or two things for you when I leave you, what would they
Yeah.
be? What's on your list? And what I'll tell you, April, is what's so interesting about the organization is whether I was in San Diego, California, or New Jersey, or Missouri, or Florida, wherever I was, it's just made up of quality individuals. Like the culture stuff is very real. And I never I never filled a room with anybody, and I didn't. I would stay in markets for a week and just meet people. No one ever walked in with their arms folded and all aggressive. They were just leaning in and very excited and just wanted an ability to understand what we were doing and why and how it impacted them and could they be a part of something. I just met more and more and more quality people in our organization. So I'd leave these markets going, we can accomplish anything.
Right.
We can accomplish any because the people we have in here, their care factor was just super high.
Yeah.
They just had a high care factor. And when you have that, you got this great mindset. I just left there with a lot of great ideas and a lot of just optimism as to, our future, you know. Yeah. And a lot of frequent flyer miles. I got a lot of that too.
Your next vacations, is that
Yeah,
one
thank you
like
for asking.
well, I know you have a big family as I do, and, kids use those miles too.
Yeah, they do. I use all my miles on shipping my kid for.
Exactly. Well, let's look ahead. What can we expect from First Service Residential in the near and mid future? What gets you excited that's on your trajectory?
Yeah. So a few things in no particular order. And I don't say this lightly, we are 1 year into a 3 year, what I'll call operational evolution, a journey. We are. We have defined a new North Star, and that's where we're going. And so one element of that is we are in the midst of a significant investment in our technologies.
Yeah.
And I don't mean updating our tech. I mean building, configuring, designing brand new technology that we're building right alongside our current technology that we will, over the next 3 years, integrate into our company. That is a massive endeavor, massive endeavor. And we're, like I said, we're 1 year into about a 3 year journey. And that will include the integration of artificial intelligence into our systems and into how we operate, both in terms of creating a better experience for our associates and how they're engaging with us with
Yeah.
ease and simplification, and our customers. And we just launched something. It's out there today. It's called Hodo, which is a homeowner digital assistant. We just launched it. We'll spend the next 3-4 months fully integrating it into the organization.
Yeah.
And it is already giving us amazing insights and opportunities and things that we know we can do in our future. But we're also creating a brand new client accounting platform that'll be customized to FirstService Residential, modules that go into how we manage communities, artificial intelligence. All of that is underway today. We have a multitude of multi-year projects that we're working on, which means one of the elements of this new role that David Diestel and I talked about was what we call our program management office, which is dedicated to the change management we're experiencing.
Yeah.
So that comes through my office as well. So
Nice.
all of the change in the organization, right, gets filtered through to one place. And I have this really group of exceptional and experienced people who are tied to change management, operational excellence, just they're, software technicians, IT professionals, just these amazing people. And so we are not just building tools and then putting them into the markets. We are going through a very robust and meaningful change management process to ensure that people are excited about what we're doing, have knowledge and desire about what we're doing, so that we don't get to the end of this and just have new tools. We have people who actually changed their behaviors and their mindsets, and we've
Yeah.
actually changed the company. And so that's been very exciting. And so those are just kind of two examples of things that
Yeah.
that we've got going on. And the other piece I would say is, the organization. We do acquisitions. We don't do as many as people think we do. We probably do a handful a year. And for us, acquisitions need to be a part of what I call intelligent growth. Is you got to do it for the right reasons financially, geographically. If we're a company, we're not interested in being bigger. We're interested in being better, right? And there's a difference in that. But we are interested in growing and creating prosperity in the company. And so we do have a big, big focus on, our organic growth process and sales process and our customer retention and loyalty. How are we serving our customers? How do they feel about us? How can we simplify their engagement with us, their interactions with us? How can we change even the perspectives that people have about the service their management companies give them, And
Yeah.
so we definitely are very focused on being able to do that. We don't accept that we're all the same. We accept that we want to bring value and credibility into the communities that we serve. And so we're very focused on that too.
I wonder how many people realize that FirstService Residential, FirstService is a public company. It's incredibly well resourced. really filled with exceptional people with bright visions for prosperity. It seems a bit of an anomaly in an industry where a lot of people providing community management services are smaller independents. And just wondering from your perspective, what that opens up in terms of opportunities for you.
I think it's an interesting question. I had the pleasure last week of speaking at a Toll Brothers
Mhm.
conference they were doing, and very kind to invite me and speak there. And it was interesting because there were three different perspectives, and they're all valid. But I did recognize sitting there like, oh, mine's a bit different because of the company that I work for. So
Sure.
I think one of the things I've seen change in the industry over the last few years is the insertion of private equity
Mhm.
into the acquisition process, and kind of what's a mindset of a private equity versus a mindset of FirstService Residential or even other competitors. Those are going to be a little bit different. It's not saying that it doesn't work for the individuals that are driving some kind of business model they want, but there are different perspectives. For us, we're we're about unifying our company. We're about operating in one consistent way. We're not about 27 different brands that operate around North America. We're about one brand and one organization. We're not about us doing things 27 different ways. We're about us doing things one way. One of the biggest benefits that this technological effort that we're making, and April, I believe that in 2 years from now, we will be the most technologically advanced management company in this industry by far. We will.
Yeah.
And one of the things that that does is it allows us one platform. It allows us to use our data in a more effective way. It allows us not to go, well, if we change something, we got to change it 18 ways because we have 18 instances of whatever it is that we're using.
Right.
Howard pulls us into, oh, we can operate as FirstService Residential. Yeah, there's nuances in California or New York or wherever you're at, but our baselines, like that rung that everybody gets to on our ladder of success, is now the same.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful thing. And that's, I think, one of the differences in our organization is that we want one team here, not a bunch of teams.
Yeah. Well, we see First Service residential associates all over the country, and you're right. You have such a strong culture. You have, with no exceptions that come to mind, a really dedicated, high care quotient team, and we appreciate that. That's
Well, that's very kind of you to say that.
it's
You
true.
know, it's, I was asked at Toll Brothers because another company spoke there, Stan AI spoke there, and I saw Michael there
Sure.
too. It's quality companies. And one of the things I was asked at that was um, our interactions with business partners in the
Hmm.
market. And I was honest with them and I said, there'll be a few. There'll be a few that we let in. There'll be a few that we trust. There'll be a few that we align with. And your company, Alessant, is one of those. There are a few like prime partners that we have that we see like, oh, they have a shared mindset. They're part of the future. They are in some element of our kind of business model and our idea of what the future looks like. And so, we're working with you to make sure you have insights into what we're doing in our company so that our two organizations can effectively engage and interact. And we have a few partners like that that we think will be really important that we're bringing in and saying, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's a
Yeah.
glimpse into who we're going to become. And we want you to be a part of it. And we need you to get involved right now because we're designing, configuring this stuff right now.
Yeah.
So how does your organization and your configurations, how do we meld them into so they're together, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of what we're doing today is not thinking that, oh, we can go accomplish this all by ourselves. We're fortunate to have really good relationships out there.
Yes. Indeed. Well, let's transition off to talk more about you. You've had an illustrious career. You've had a lot of terrific experiences. You've been someone who had very high standards for yourselves and those around you that you continue to aspire for growth. That takes a lot of internal fortitude. It takes a lot of inspiration. Some days higher than others, I'm sure, just like every other member of our human race. However, what and where do you turn to keep your inspiration level high?
Yeah, that's a good question. To be quite honest, I've always been a pretty self-motivated person, right? Um, what's my purpose? Why am I in this room today? Why am I in this company today? What are my responsibilities? Like, I just kind of wake up every day, no matter what I'm doing, and I ask myself, well, what's your purpose right now? What are you supposed to be doing? How are you supposed to be behaving? I do have a very strong sense of um, giving back to the people in this organization in the way that others gave back to me. I said that earlier, but it's true. There were so many people who invested their time and energy and knowledge into me. And maybe even during moments where I probably didn't show, at least I didn't think I was showing much, but they did. And I want to be that too. Mm. And you know, I tell my children, our children are older now. Our youngest is just finishing up her last couple years of school. Most of our kids are in their careers. They're just starting. They're going and doing things. And as we were kind of, mentoring them, I would say to my kids, you know, you can't you can't hate what you do every day. It's work, and there'll be some days where you wake up and you say, "This is gonna be a hard day." I said, "But you can't hate what you do every day. You gotta
Right.
love what you do, and you gotta enjoy the people that you work with, because I don't know anybody who's successful that hates what they do or hates the
That's
people
good.
that they work with.
Yeah.
That they wake up in the morning and go, I can't believe I have to go to that crummy job. Like, that is not anything I've ever heard the people that I respect and I try to emulate or look up to and admire that I've ever heard them say. And so I really do instill that in my kids, or even people that might look to me for mentoring or
Mhm.
guidance. Those are some of my first pieces of advice is, are you in the right gig? Are you in the right gig? Are you in the right gig inside this company? Are you staying close to what we do as an organization? Are you getting too far away? Like, what is it that you want to be? What is it you want to become? And I think I was fortunate along the way to have some really good people around me who kind of helped me kind of to see that. Yeah.
That's great. Well, my next question was gonna be what advice you would give the 25-year-old Bob Cardoza, but I think you've answered it.
He needs a lot of advice, the 25-year-old Bob Cardoza, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would say the 25-year-old Bob Cardoza was still floundering a bit. You know? Uh, yeah, the 30-year-old Bob Cardoza was starting to get it together. The 25-year-old one, I would have maybe slapped around a little bit and said, "Get your act together." Uh, yeah. And I think, you know, I I think it's, who you put around you, who you surround yourself with,
Mm.
you know, I think can do a lot for you. I think being quiet in a room sometimes and not feeling like you got to show people how smart you are or you got to talk all the time. I think when you're in a room and you're around people who have done this for a long time. I remember early in my career, especially like at ULI, I was fortunate enough maybe to get invited to a dinner or go to a meeting, and I'd find myself with people that had accomplished so much. And I remember thinking, Bob, you just got to soak this in. You just got to listen to what these people have to say.
Yeah.
You are nowhere near any of that yet, but you somehow find your way to this table. So just soak it in, just listen. And I think a lot of people, like, one of the questions I always enjoy least of people when they ask me about their careers. I said, I want to be the next you. You know, I want to. What do I need to be the next vice president? And I would say, well, maybe be here for longer than 5 minutes before you start asking a question. And I said, and okay, you want to be the next this, that, and the other. Okay, I've got 38 years doing this, so maybe a little bit of patience and a little bit of fortitude can go a long way. I've had a multitude of careers inside one organization. I never had to lead to have a multitude of careers and challenges and opportunities.
It's a great point.
And so I always tell people, hey, if you have a little patience, put a little time in, have a little fortitude, you know,
Yeah.
you'd be amazed at what you can do for a career.
That's true in many instances and many types of careers. What I heard in there is focus less on the end point and more on the journey, and take the time to build that journey. I think that's going to be true. I know a lot of young people worry about AI and how they're gonna start their career, and, I don't know what advice you might give in that instance.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have all the answers for that. I really don't. And I'm starting to see how AI is unlocking, potential in our organization. But the way I look at it today is, to me, it's about us operating more effectively in the future. It's
Yeah,
never been about how do we I just can't imagine a time in which our organization isn't in need of quality individuals to help us achieve the things that we have
right.
on our mind. And while those tools will help us be more efficient, I look at it as the better quality of tools I can give these individuals, the better they can perform and the better we can perform and the more opportunities that we're going to have. I still look at this as very much a people business. I
It
hear
is.
people, everything's going to be virtual and everything's going to be this and that. You know, yeah, I think we'll find some place in which those things kind of blend together in an effective way. I don't I don't mind, you know, growing the organization in a way that, 10 years from now, I don't need the same number of individuals as I needed 10 years ago. But you still need those individuals in your organization who want to be a part of it in a meaningful way to help you achieve the things that you have in mind. You know,
Yeah.
when I look, April, hey, listen, 99 out of 100 things I get are these positive messages about the organization. And every time I get something like that, it always is aligned to an individual who went above and beyond and out of their way to deliver this more meaningful moment for some. Always.
Yeah, that
I
human
don't get
moment, not a
I don't
technology.
get phone calls or emails
Yeah.
or any social media chats that tell me, "Hey, I loved your accounting system." But I get lots of them who say, "I love Joe Smith, your accountant," or "I love Susie Jones, your manager." It has always been about the individual. They never
Yeah.
tell me how great the tools are. They tell me how great the people are.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, that's a great note to end on, Bob. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for spending this time with us
Sure.
and really talking about your journey.
I appreciate it very much. It's always great to see you. Thank you.
Yes, you too.